Well, you're going to want to stick around to the end of our show today. We got a lot of things in store for you, but we'll start with this, a big question. Can we trust our election results? It's a major question that's been debated in our country very publicly since the 2020 presidential election, and I'll cut right to it. Major claims about election fraud and manipulation are unfounded from that election and do not have the evidence behind them to support such claims. This is not to say, though, that every election runs perfectly, and it's important that we highlight what actual election mistakes look like and the impact they have so that everybody understands the scope and how the system works. Now, there are loads of people that came out really strongly in support of American elections, as they should, but some went a little too far in their defense, boldly saying that our system is perfect and there are never issues with it. It's really a great system, but it's not perfect. It is close, but it has a human process as a part of it, and human processes are prone to human errors. Not massive conspiracy errors, but errors that people like you and me can understand in plain, simple language. It brings me to a tweet that some of you sent us over the weekend and today from Governor candidate Ammon Bundy. It says this, quote, "Attention Meridian voters. Ada County Clerk Phil McGrane knew the absentee ballots were incorrect before the election, but he hoped for a landslide so it would not matter. However, it came down to 56 votes." End quote there. And we talk a lot about election integrity on this show, and it's important that we talk about this claim because it is true. There was a mistake made on ballots sent out this past cycle, but the mistake made may not be as dramatic as you assume. So in the spirit of transparency, we went to the source, Ada County Clerk Phil McGrane, to talk about the mistake that was made and how it was addressed. He explains the mistake centers on how candidates were listed on the ballot, those absentee ballots. And we've talked about this previously on the 208, but if you missed it, candidates in many political races here in the state of Idaho, they're listed on the ballot in a random order on the ballot so that it keeps things fair. Some research says that it does matter who's listed and whatever. Some more research says the whole thing doesn't matter at all. But the candidate order varies from voting area to voting area or district to district. In one city council race, seat 6 in Meridian, the 3 candidate names were not mixed up properly across all ballots like they should have been. It's a practice that is not just done in Idaho, though. No, we don't just do this to do it. It's actually a part of state code. Here's Phil McGrane.
In this particular election, we actually discovered an error in the middle of October after we had already mailed about 2,000 absentee ballots countywide. And given that we found the error, we tried to do everything we could to remedy it. So first and foremost, the error was in all ballots at that point in time, and we spent about $15,000 correcting it to ensure that all of the election day ballots and the early voting ballots would be accurate and the rotation would be exactly the same. So candidate names are always going to be the same, but really that rotation issue. The issue with the absentee ballots is we had already been mailing a large volume of absentee ballots, and we were trying to figure out what is the best solution. Sending out duplicate ballots, so there would be numerous duplicates all throughout the county, or trying to address the issue in the event the race was close, as it turned out it was, and just disclosing it to the candidates and working with everybody involved to make sure we could remedy it as best as possible. And we were able to narrow the scope of this to just a small selection of the overall ballots. Overwhelmingly, the ballots that went out in the election were exactly the right way, and all of the ballots had all of the candidates' names and everyone had equal opportunity. It's not like there was some anything interfering with somebody's ability to vote for a candidate they wanted to choose in this particular race.
I don't want to make excuses for you or your office, but mistakes do happen in elections, and I thought it was interesting that we highlight something like this to show what does an election mistake look like compared to wild election rigging claims. I know that the way you explained this, you weren't able to manipulate this race. This has nothing to do with your political leanings.
Oh, not at all. No, this is actually just a setting. It's a computer setting in which there was the number 2 where there should have been the number 3 in terms of how many candidates were in the race. The computer determines that rotation to make sure it is evenly distributed through our software. It was just a minor error by a staff member. Of course, it certainly has implications. I actually do think this really highlights, when we talk about the integrity of our elections and making sure our elections work well, is making sure that we are open and transparent about everything we do. This is a good example where a minor error may have occurred, but we wanted to make sure that the candidates knew what had taken place. So my having a phone call with the candidates as well as notifying the Secretary of State, I actually think shows just how robust our system here is in this state because we do know these things. There's certainly no effort to hide anything in this process. We want to make sure we're open and disclose with everybody so that it is a fair election and that everyone can have confidence in the results, particularly the citizens of Meridian who are the ones who headed to the polls to vote.
Meanwhile, Mr. Bundy says he's very serious about the situation, and he appears to be filing a legal suit in court over it. There's a form on his candidate website asking people who are interested to sign up to file with them in court to seek another full election for City Council Seat 6 in the city of Meridian. Now, Clerk McGrane has been and continues to be happy to settle this in court, he says. There are, however, some time limitations on the situation. Those statute of limitations, as we call them, have expired, so it is wait and see to see where this one goes.